Workplace issues don't just go away when we ignore them. Instead, they turn toxic. Poor, or absent, workplace communication inevitably ends up eroding organizational trust, worker satisfaction, and productivity. So don't ignore difficult issues, get talking, whether you're asking your boss for a raise, delivering feedback to your direct reports, or navigating a tricky office etiquette dilemma. Learning to take charge of the conversation will get you one step closer to achieving the results you want. To begin with, you need confidence to initiate conversations. Marketing manager Rishi lacked the confidence to pull his boss aside and ask for a raise, even though he'd taken on more responsibility since his team downsized. Instead, he fell into a common trap. He had the conversation in his head, over and over and over. Each time, Rishi imagined his boss giving more and more reasons to refuse his raise. Until eventually, he talked himself out of approaching his boss at all. The problem? You can't anticipate someone else's reaction. If Rashid had the confidence to request a raise, his boss may well have approved it. Confidence isn't an innate quality but a muscle that can be trained. The Buddha says, "What we think, we become." So think yourself confident. Start your day with an affirmation, a phrase that clarifies your ambitions and intentions into a positive statement. You can come up with your own, or try these on for size. I can do what I set my mind to. I'm strong and capable. I can rise to any challenge. Once you're thinking confidently, challenge yourself to initiate difficult dialogues, but, where possible, try and start small. Tackle the least intimidating issues on your to-do list, then work up to bigger problems. Before you begin a conversation, work out what you want from it. Set a concrete goal, like, "I'd like to work more closely with the design department," rather than, "I want a more creative role." Ask yourself what you want the other person to do directly after your conversation. Perhaps you'd like them to give you a raise, assign you to a new team, or give you more thorough feedback at your next performance review. And decide ahead of time what you're prepared to risk to achieve your desired result. There's nothing worse than threatening to quit your job, only to have your boss take you up on the offer. Then again, if you're prepared to take on extra responsibilities or make a transfer to achieve your objective, then your partner needs to know that, no matter how the conversation unfolds, keep your objective in mind. You're all about clarity, but the other person may not be. If they try to deflect focus, steer back to your objective and stick to facts. For example, in response to a poor performance review, a deflector might say, "Sharon's numbers are worse than mine." Respond with something like, "We're here to talk about you and how you can manage a 5% increase in your sales by next quarter." Or they might deflect with a sob story. Here you can be kind but firm. Try something like, "Hey, I'm so sorry things are tough at home. But unfortunately, we still need to talk about your poor performance. Is now a good time or should we reschedule for tomorrow morning?" So, why is compassion so important? As a rule, people want to work with, and for, compassionate people. No one wants a boss who doesn't care that their grandma just died or a colleague who only grumbles about the extra workload when someone on their team breaks a leg. Demonstrating empathy and compassion for others helps establish goodwill and rapport, two things that go a long way towards smoothing out potentially difficult workplace interactions. What's more, demonstrating compassion can often turn an adversarial conversation into an opportunity. Let's say a colleague mistakenly accuses you of leaving some key info out of a report, and you don't like his agitated manner. You're tempted to say something snarky like, "If you read the report properly, you might see that the numbers are right there." But you choose not to escalate and practice compassion instead. You say, "I'm certain I did include those numbers. The index shows they're on page 35. I know how easy it is to miss these things and you're under pressure." Now you've corrected your colleague's mistake and signaled you know he's working hard in a stressful situation. You had to put your ego aside. After all, you weren't at fault here, but you've effectively diffused a difficult discussion. Asking lots of questions not only helps you get a better handle on the issue you're discussing, it signals to others that you welcome their input and value their opinions. Questions like, "Why do you think this happened?" and "What do you think our next steps should be?" Invite your partner to collaborate on achieving a constructive outcome from your discussion. Conversations that shut down before you achieve your objective can be frustrating. So, curiosity is your friend here. When you sense someone is trying to close down a conversational topic, try asking an open-ended question, the kind of question that can't be answered with a simple yes or no. These questions can reignite dialogue and allow you to steer the conversation back to where you want it. Conversation isn't a competitive sport. In order to win what you want out of a dialogue, your partner doesn't necessarily have to lose. When you meet each other halfway, everyone can walk away from a conversation feeling like they've won. Which brings us to our fifth principle, compromise. Here's how to have win-win discussions. Keep things respectful. You might be making a straightforward request for time off, or you might be grappling with a big picture issue on which you and your teammate can't see eye to eye. No matter how simple or complex the conversation, you'll derail at the moment you disrespect the other person. The perceived disrespect will take precedence over the topic at hand, whether they show it or not. Credibility is a quality that you can cultivate. Here's how. This may sound obvious, but make sure you know what you're talking about. Learn about the field you're working in, and remember, developments in your area will continue to take place long after you've received your qualifications. Stay on top of current research and trends. The same principle applies to meetings and presentations. If you're pitching a client, make sure you've researched their business model thoroughly. If you're attending a budget meeting, have the latest figures on hand. Next, aim for consistency. Acing a presentation or dazzling a client once won't win you credibility points. But making a habit of performing your work to a high standard will. So will consistently prioritizing your team's success above your own, responding promptly to requests and queries, and completing projects on deadline. When people know they can count on you, that's when they see you as credible. Here's the honest truth. Sometimes workplace conversations are downright unpleasant. You can clarify your objectives beforehand, ask the other person all the right questions, compromise adeptly, and reach a mutually satisfactory outcome, and still find every second of the discussion deeply uncomfortable. What's more, some of the high-stakes situations where you most need to advocate for yourself, like if you're experiencing workplace harassment, for example, are the most nerve-wracking to broach with your colleagues. So, how can you muscle through tricky conversations and stand up for yourself effectively? That's where our seventh and final principle comes in: courage. Fear of discomfort is often what holds us back from initiating difficult but necessary discussions. Someone takes credit for our work, but we decide not to call them out on it. Someone on our team isn't pulling their weight, but we decide not to make waves by calling it to our boss's attention. Here's the thing: not talking about the problem won't make it go away. As long as the problem persists, so do our feelings of discomfort and dissatisfaction. Moreover, if you consistently fail to assert yourself, your colleagues may take advantage of that fact. If you don't push back when others pawn their work off on you, odds are they'll continue to overload you with work. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more book discussions.